Hey, what's going on? This is a response video, talking about chess. Let's talk about, first I just want to give an overview of chess, where the game comes from and what it really means as far as like teaching basic strategic thinking, okay? It originated in Persia, and the reason the pieces move the way that they do actually has to do with correlations on real battlefields in the ancient world. The rooks, or the castles, originally were elephants. Okay, that's why they can only move on this sort of plane to sort of simulate the movement of an elephant. The bishops were actually ships, and they tack against the wind, so that's why they, it's sort of a correlation attacking against the wind, right? The knights were horsemen, but they were cavalry, and the reason they move in an L shape is because the purpose of cavalry is to flank your enemy. Like, you get past their front lines and you come around behind them and flank them, and that's why they move in an L shape, because cavalry is used to flank the enemy. Okay? So far so good, right? So the queen and the king, this is where it gets interesting. Traditionally, when this game was created, the way things were done is the queen was protected by a light cavalry, so she could move very quickly. It was very important to be able to evacuate the queen very quickly, because she was the source of the next generation of kings. Okay? The king, he was surrounded by a huge entourage. He can move very slowly, because he's the king. He's got all this fucking shit he's got to carry with him. That's why they usually, on some kind of stronghold or something, they don't actually move around the board. But for simulation purposes, if you had a king on a battlefield, because it's all basically, before virtual reality, there was virtual reality before computers, but it's just like with things like chessboard. This is all corollaries to actual battlefield conditions. The idea was to teach basic strategic thinking. The Persians invented this. Persians invented a lot of shit, actually. They're pretty sharp cats. Anyway, so, getting on to the whole, gods and men and all that shit. Okay, here's the thing. Is these gods, they are real, but they're not gods. They're men. They're what are known as the ruling class. Okay, and don't kid yourself, every nation has a ruling class, and they're all kind of in collusion. Now, they appear to be fighting each other sometimes, but really, and a great corollary of that, and this is just another corollary because it's not really mean anything, but it's a great corollary, and the fact that they happen to be black and white, like chess, is perfect. But Barack Obama and fucking John McCain, who are like battling out for the presidency and the future of our nation and all that crap, but ultimately, when you get down to it, they're going to go and have a beer with each other afterward, right? I mean, this is, not just literally a beer, but, they're buddy-buddy. And, they're all senators. And senators, presidents, all these people, lawyers, corporate leaders, all come from the same basic class. They all went to the same schools, Harvard, Yale, these Ivy League schools, because that's where you meet the people that own everything, that can put you in a position to be part of the ruling class, and to support a system of indentured servitude that is basically administered through the medium of money. Now, this is money, right? Okay, say, oh wow, hey, it's $20. All right, money. But what is it really? What does it represent? Okay, well, this is a note of credit for the Federal Reserve Bank. Basically what happens is the federal government, these elected officials, our elected officials, that we chose, right? Forget that the only choices we're given are part of this elite class that go to these certain schools. Or set aside for a moment. Say, okay, so they issue bonds, which are basically shares of the government, and they give them to the Federal Reserve Bank. And the Federal Reserve Bank makes all this money. And the purpose of this money, and the only real purpose of this money, is to service that debt to the Federal Reserve Bank. Now, here's the fucked up thing, is you live in this society, so you know as well as I do, that you have to have this. You have to have this if you want a place to live, if you want to eat, if you want to basically do anything in our commerce system. So all money comes from banks and goes back to banks. Ultimately, this bill is the property of the Federal Reserve Bank, and its purpose is to service the debt of the United States government. So, in a sense, we are chess pieces. Now, your pawns are your most ignorant chess pieces. They're the ones that just totally bind the system lock, stock, and barrel, and basically will do whatever you tell them to do if you say, oh, God said to. You know, and you can basically manipulate them using pre-existing prejudices. And the reason that nobody really wants to see this, I mean, that's one of the reasons why, like, you know, Barack Obama being chief executive, you know, I know a lot of people are like, all right, Obama, a black person's going to be president, cool. Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of how many black cops they use to enforce apartheid. You know, it's a system of wage slavery. You know, I find the prospect, and I mean, let's face it, take a look around, it's pretty obvious that the powers that be have decided that Barack Obama is going to be president. That's one of the reasons why they had George Bush privatize these institutions, you know, basically this socialist move, because if Barack Obama did it, that would just be too much. People would freak. So you can't have a black president that's a Democrat do all this socialist shit. You got to have the Republican president, outgoing president, do it, so that way he can just go, oh, well, Bush did it, and I just have to deal with it. You know, I'm just dealing with the best I can what Bush did in doing these socialist policies by privatizing these basic lending institutions and insurance institutions, right? You know, because it's all just a big chess game. You know, it really is. You know, and we're the pawns, born into debt, born to service the debt of the U.S. government. And ostensibly, we decide who these people are that decide to put us in this debt and make the rules that tell us what to do. But do we really? Do we really have any say in it? Does a common person really have that much say in how their government is run? You know, that's one of those things, and they kind of give it away sometimes. Like some politicians, well, the government, you know how to spend your money better than the government does. Well, do you even know how you're spending your money? Because ultimately that money is being spent to service the debt of the government. You know, basically what they're admitting is that we do not live in a democracy, because in a democracy, the people are the government, right? So if you know how to spend your money better than government, then all of us together, which that's supposed to be the government, should know how to spend money even better, shouldn't we? I mean, as an individual, I might be pretty smart with my money, right? But if a bunch of individuals who are smart with their money got together, well, heck, couldn't we figure out better ways to spend money? I would think so. So that's some food for thought from the real world. You know, this little exercise you're talking about as far as like being a mental exercise actually does have its applications to real world conditions if you think about it. Now, that was really the purpose of this video, to give you a little food for thought. Now, nobody wants to... I understand why people are resistant to these ideas, because nobody wants to admit that they've been had. Nobody wants to admit that, oh man, a lot of the shit that I believed all my life about nations and ideologies and how it all works is complete and utter bullshit, and I've been had. Who wants to, you know, that's a hard pill to swallow, especially if you feel like you're relatively comfortably well off, like you're benefiting from this system. You know, like, hey, I'm not missing any meals and I pretty much get what I want, so why rock the boat? It's like musical chairs. And some people have saved seats. Well, hell, man, they're running the phonograph. Somebody always gets left out. You know, last guy at the table when the check comes has to pay the bill. And more frequently than not, they leave us at the table. And I'm talking about all people that are not part of the fucking ruling class. So, you know, and it's not like this is a new thing, you know, this is a system that goes back to the feudal period. I'm probably going to do a video about my opinion about that, about the history of the feudal system and a ruling class versus the rest of us, and how it became that way, how it developed into the system that it is now. Because it's basically, you know, the name's the same, the players changed, but the price is still your guns. You know, figuratively as well as literally. But figuratively is more important. Because, you know, it's like, you know, what can you steal more money with? A fucking gun or a pencil? Well, if you're fucking smart, pencil. So, I guess that's all I really have to say on the subject. I think that's enough food for thought for anybody for a while. So yeah, good luck with all that, and let me know, hit me up and tell me what you think.